I would not be where I am today with my portfolio if I didn't do that, because the process of, saving up and buying, we only have so much income that we're making. And so it's such a slow, slow process. So if we can accelerate it, tap into that lazy money, that's what I call that equity sitting there. If we can tap into that, then all of a sudden, you can buy more and grow more. Each property creates wealth, cash flow. The tenant is paying it down, tax benefits.
Greetings, well builders. Welcome to Get Diversified, your go-to podcast for all things real estate investments.
I'm Jacqueline.
Melvin Landry. We're thrilled to embark on this wealth building journey with you.
Imagine this. What if your investments not only secure your future, but also unlock a life of financial freedom? That's what we're diving into on this show. Apartment buildings, storage facilities, mobile home parks, the whole shebang.
But here's the kicker. It's not just about investing. It's about crafting a legacy, building memories with your loved ones, and seizing every moment. Time is the currency of life. And let's be real, none of us wants to waste.
We've got the insights, experience, and dash of excitement to spice up your investing game. Plus, we'll throw in some real-life stories that'll make you see the potential in every brick and mortar.
Subscribe, buckle up, and get ready to turn your investments into a ticket to financial freedom. Together, we're not just building wealth, we're building a community of savvy investors. Let's get diversified.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Diversified. I am your host today, Jacqueline Landry, and I have Melissa Nash with me. And boy, is she an interesting person. I can't wait to kind of hear her story. So without further ado, I'm going to read an introduction on Melissa. So let's get started. All right. So Melissa Nash lost a multi-million-dollar children's clothing brand in 2009 in the 2009 crash, and it completely changed about how she thinks about wealth. That moment led her to real estate, where she built a 7-figure rental portfolio using what she calls the lazy investor method. Passive income for busy professionals who don't want another job. Since then, she helped over 2,000 students purchase more than $500 million in real estate. She closed over 50 out-of-state properties herself and even helped her kids become property owners before they turned 18. Today, she teaches investors how to build real estate, lasting legacy wealth without sacrificing time with their families. Melissa, welcome to the show. I am super excited to have you on today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you as well. You have a very impressive portfolio, and I'm sure I have a lot to learn from you as well.
Cool. So what did I miss out of the introduction that you'd like to share with the audience?
It's so funny, like hearing that back, it's kind of like summarizing my life, like in the last, 15 years. But yeah, it's a quick snippet. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I want to say to people is, real estate is not a get rich quick thing. I mean, this has been built over, really the last 10 years. But I did take that first step. And that first step, I'm so proud of Melissa for, putting my fears aside and buying a property in Birmingham, Alabama that I never saw. I'm just so proud of her for doing that, because I would not be here today without that.
Yes, that's fantastic. So let's get into your story a little bit more. So you had this children's clothing business. Take me from there.
Yeah, so my husband and I had a children's clothing brand. Like we kind of, I want to say, like we fell into many businesses in our lives. That was one that just kind of evolved, and we were wholesaling to stores. And so, when the crash happened, most of our accounts were the small mom and pop stores. And so I saw these stores really struggling because, at that time it was stressful and nobody was buying $85 baby jeans, And so we kind of saw the writing on the wall. We saw stores struggling. We saw stores not being able to take their orders. And so we actually started looking for an exit strategy. We ended up selling the business. And I mean, it was our baby. And so we were kind of left with, what is next? Like, what do I want to do? My husband left his business and his job, and this was our thing. And so the
Yeah.
one thing that I was kind of always analyzing in my head was, why these stores failed,
Mhm.
which led to our failure. And so I was like, how can you create a recession-proof business? To me, that was the conversation, is what types of things can survive a recession? And it always kinda came back to real estate, even though I'd never really I mean, I tried to dabble in real estate years and years before that and didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't a good situation. Kinda gave up on that, then I kinda came back to real estate, and I was like, there's a need for housing. Housing is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And I'm sure you can relate to that as well, because you just told me that you do a lot of government housing and Section 8 and different things like that. And so we see that. And I do invest, some of my properties are Section 8 HUD as well. But not even that, like just even just renting to a straight tenant. We all live in houses.
Right.
We all understand the need for housing and the security it provides. So I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. That was kind of where I was at. And then I realized really quickly that I live in California. And
Right.
I don't know how I'm going to invest here. How can I put $150,000 cash into a property that doesn't cash flow? So that's kind of where I kind of stopped and kind of gave up a little bit. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I meet a lot of folks that live in California, and I said the good thing about that is not necessarily you being able to afford or buy something there, but you can find the investors there that have the money to invest elsewhere. So that's what I love about being in California. That's like my magical investor location.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, over the last, 9, 10 years, I've been focusing on not only growing my own portfolio, but helping people do the same thing I'm doing. So I'm actually taking them along my journey, and they're doing it with me. And some of my students have probably surpassed what I've done. And yeah, most of them, I would say I ran a report a few years back, and I want to say over 50% were from California or expensive markets like New York or, Colorado or Washington or states that just are not landlord friendly and just don't make sense at the end of the day if you're trying to, at least break even. They don't even make sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know this is probably digressing a little bit, but when you say cash flowing, what do you typically like to see in a deal? And you consider it cash flowing? Is it 5% of the very top suggested rents? How do you view that?
Yeah, good question. So I think that as you're building a portfolio, you're in different phases of what's important to you. Like sometimes I'll buy a property, like I'll get an opportunity to do something and the cash flow isn't very high. Let's say the cash on cash return, and I like to use cash on cash return. And I'll kind of explain why I'm using that and why I like to use that so much. But, the cash on cash return year 1 might be, I don't know, 7%, 8%. And to me, that's just kinda like, it's okay, it's fine. Like, it's more than my money is making in a bank account,
Right?
but I know there's also gonna be rental increases and appreciation and tenant paying down the mortgage and all these things. And so, sometimes I will go to a better area knowing that I'm gonna give up a little bit of that return. But then sometimes in my portfolio, I've got a property that I'm just like, this cash flows really well. I know it's not going to appreciate a ton, and that's okay, but it cash flows like crazy. This is the cash cow. And so as I talk to clients, I'm like, okay, you're going to build a portfolio. That's what everybody wants. Like nobody says, I want to buy one property and that's
Right.
it. We all want to build something. And so we have to take it one property at a time. Where are you today? So right now, today, somebody might come to me and say, Melissa, I want cash flow. That is number one priority. So let's look at properties that are cash flowing after all expenses are paid, taxes, insurance, property manager, mortgage, you know, over 9%, I think is a phenomenal number, and that's what I see every single day, land on my desk, and so that's a great cash flow number. If somebody's like, "Hey, Melissa, you know what? I don't need the cash flow. I don't want the cash flow. I don't care about the cash flow. I wanna go look at something that has a little bit more appreciation. Let's go to markets that appreciate a little bit more. I wanna break even. I wanna get a little bit of cash." Then maybe they're okay with a 4 or a 5%, year 1 return. Personally, I wouldn't go below a 4% return ever. You wanna at least be able to pay for the property, let it sustain itself. There's gonna be a vacancy, there's gonna be a maintenance call at some point, even if you bought brand new construction, that day will come, and so we wanna make sure you're putting money aside to help cover that. So I
Yep.
think that's where that barrier of at least a 4% return is, my threshold.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept because usually when somebody says to me, "Hey, I have $25,000 or I have $50,000, Jackie, what should I do with it?" And I always ask them that question. Are you wanting cash flow? Do you need a big sum of money? Do you not care about money right now? Can you live without it for 5 years, right? So I kind of ask them all that question. So that's great. And you also bring up another good point about a smaller cash flow in a better area that may see more appreciation. So as we mentioned before we talked, is we buy in C class areas primarily that don't see a lot of appreciation. It's just part of the genetics of Pittsburgh. When you see a crash or have a increase in appreciation, Pittsburgh is kind of steady Eddie. So, but that is a great point, and I take that to heart. So go ahead and continue with your story.
Yeah. So anyway, so I kind of took a corporate job and I was just trying to figure out like how am I going to do all this? I became a real estate agent because I thought, oh, I'm going to learn all about real estate investing. That was truly my purpose. I wasn't intending to do it necessarily to help to sell houses for people. It was more just kind of like, hey, maybe I can get access to inventory, I can get off-market deals, I know how to structure it. Like I thought real estate school was going to teach me all that. And it didn't. It doesn't. That's like I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if you want to be an investor, don't even bother with don't get your license. You don't need it. You can find the people that have been entrenched in real estate for 20 years that really get the back end deals.
Yeah, and I would say the interesting thing too about real so I'm a realtor just because we buy so much locally, so it makes sense for me
Yeah.
to get the commission, coming
Yes.
back to us. But the sad thing is, most realtors have no idea what the hell cash on cash means, what investing means, what a good investment means, what it means to manage a property, and it's sad. I would love to just put myself out there and build, just kind of educate these realtors out there that are paying huge amount of taxes and don't really know how they could keep more money in their pocket, more commissions in their pocket if they do something else. So
Yep.
yeah, you're right on it,
Yep.
but I am a realtor. So okay, so you thought realtor would teach you all this stuff. That's a misconception. Absolutely agree. So what happened after that?
Yeah. So I did that, and then I just kind of was like, I was finding myself at like, finding my own education. So I was kind of like in the real estate, like podcast world, like listening to everything and going to the forums and really trying to understand all this. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can help I can find wholesale deals. I can, connect with builders. I was trying to like figure it all out. And I met somebody. In fact, I was having a conversation with a colleague, and the colleague said to me, he was singing the same thing. He was like, I wish that there was a way that people like us in California can invest out of state, where somebody does all the work for you. They're renovating the property, they're managing the property, they're finding the deal. He's like, I wish there was something like that because he had been investing in like some syndications too, and he was fine with it. But he's like, I want to own properties like myself, like 100%, And so he was like, I wish there was a way. I was like, that's a really good question. There's got to be something. And so I actually ended up connecting with a group in Birmingham, Alabama. And I would say sort of kind of a mentorship, except for the person that was mentoring me, like spoke. I remember taking my phone and hitting record every time he would talk because it was a lot of information, but it was so much information I couldn't understand. He kept on like it was almost like he was trying to show me how smart he was by just going into hour-long conversations about cash on cash return, and I'm like, "Hit record." Like, I'm like, "I don't understand. Like, why am I not understanding this person?" I would have to listen back to them all the time. Anyways, finally got through that, and they had a deal for me that they had found, and it was a turnkey rental property. And turnkey in the real estate investing world means that it's a if it's done right, it's an entire process. It's not just the property, but the property was renovated. I wouldn't say it was perfect in any way. It was just rent ready. And then there was a property manager that was in place managing it, and they just placed a tenant. And that first tenant was actually a Section 8 tenant. And I didn't know anything about Section 8. I mean, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know exactly what the property manager did. I just kind of had faith and hope that it would work out. Honestly, I was just like, I got to do this. So it was a very, affordable property all in. I was like $15,000 all in for this property. I still have this property today. It's my number one best performing property. The tenant's been paying down on it, and I got through COVID and everything just amazing because it was Section 8, no problems. And so, but to kind of back up, I took that first step, wasn't perfect. Like, I had a squatter in there for, a second, and, things
Yep.
happen with real estate, and you can't if I had let that detour me, I would not be where I am today. I was like, bigger picture, Melissa, bigger picture, let the property manager solve it. That's what they're there for. And they're a good property manager. That's a big disclaimer. You have to have a good property manager.
Yes, yes.
So I got up the courage, bought that property. And then I bought another rental, and then I was able to so at this point, it was just kind of saving, it's just like saving and buying, saving and buying, and I was like, "There's gotta be a way to expand and be able to do this a little bit faster." And so, I was able to tap into the equity of that first rental in just a couple of years. I did a cash-out refinance.
Ooh,
The
I
markets
love
were
cash
doing
out
well.
refis. That's what we do.
It's genius. It's genius. Hello, anybody that has not done a HELOC or a cash out refinance on your own residence or your rental property, you are missing out. I'm going to say that right now. It
But you
is the
have
most
money. But Melissa, it's actually, you know what? When everybody says we get excited about that because it's like
yes.
free money. And everyone's like, oh, you're gonna get
Yes.
taxed on that. I go, no, it's debt. So no, you don't get taxed on that. But the whole mind shift of refinancing your mortgage being a little bit higher blows people's minds, right? Most Americans, as we know, are like, oh, I'm like 2 payments away from paying off my house. And I'm like, yeah, you're not smart. I kind of say
No.
that behind the scenes because so many people just are brought up to think, let's pay down my mortgage so that I can live for free.
Right. Right.
So,
No.
anyways, so yeah,
Yeah.
I love that cash out refi. That's our thing. That's what we do, and that's a great way to have more money to buy the next one.
Well, I wouldn't be able to I would not be where I am today with my portfolio if I didn't do that because the process of, saving up and buying, we only have so much income that we're making. And so it's such a slow, slow process. So if we can accelerate it, tap into that lazy money, that's what I call that equity sitting there. If we can tap into that, then all of a sudden, you can buy more and grow more. Each property creates wealth, cash flow. The tenant is paying it down, tax benefits. I mean, you know this. I'm hoping your listeners know this. I get so excited and so passionate about it. Actually, my very first client saw what I was doing, and she was a friend of mine, and she's a teacher, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, how are you, doing this? And I was kind of talking to her about it, and she's like, "Well, where are you getting the money from?" And I was like, "Well, you can take money out of your." She's like, "I don't really have a lot of extra savings." And I was like, "You're sitting on a house in California with hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity." And she's like, "What? I can tap into that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you actually can." So I helped her do that. And she owns 5 rentals now. She owns 3 long-term rentals and she owns 2 Airbnbs. And she can quit teaching. Those 5 properties alone, just with the tax benefits and with the income, she can retire. And she thought that's what she was gonna do. She was like, "Teaching is tough. It's hard." Just the
Yeah.
administration and the parents, it's tough, especially
Yep.
after COVID. And, she was gonna quit. That was her plan. And once she got that financial freedom number, she is still a teacher because she's learned to love teaching again. Because she's not teaching because she has to. She's teaching because she wants to.
Yeah.
And it completely changed her mindset, everything about it. And from that day forward, I was just like, everybody needs to do this. Like, everybody can do it. And I think that's the biggest thing is you don't have to become a real estate agent. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to be a businessman buying apartment complexes. Anybody can invest. We just have to learn, what we want to do. Like, what strategy. There's so many things to do. And do it. Actually, just take action.
Jacqueline and Melvin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of Get Diversified. Please make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Finally, stop by our website and follow us on social media. Ciao for now. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time. And remember, get diversified.